Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Hello friends, family, internet strangers. How you guys doing out there? Today we're going to take a look at, well, it started off as Kamala versus Barr, but as I got into this a little bit, it ended up being more Barr, or more Kamala and video bombing by Mr. Spartacus there. So I'm going to get into that in just a minute. Now, if you wanted to learn how to do this kind of stuff, I offer, I have a free book that you can get. Just go to the Facebook site. I'll put a link down below, and you can get the free book and learn how to do this kind of stuff. I also offer a full course, and you can find that on our Facebook site also. I'll put a link on there also for that. So with all of that, let's go ahead and get started, and we'll take a look at the Kamala Barr show, and we'll get started right now. Okay, so now she starts asking questions. Barr's looking over to answer the questions that she's sitting to his right. Now, notice that she kind of glares now, and her head is resting completely on her hand like she's bored, just doesn't have time for this. Now, though, and then sitting there asking the question again. She feels like she's superior to him. Corey's got that grin on his face like he believes the same. Then the blinking starts. Take a look. Now, most of us 5 to 6 blinks a minute. Let's count how many she has. That's 12
golf clap. Golf clap.
Okay, now notice how she narrows her eyes like this, like she's really listening intently. I'll slow that down a little bit. Like she's listening intently. Now remember, all these people, they're trained for this stuff, and that's kind of a show. She's put on a show like she's listening intently. She's just waiting for her next question. Now, did you notice that grimace that she had right there? Now that's, again, that's a show for everybody to get them to think that this is a scary thing. It was very subtle. It was very quick. Now I want you to notice what she does next. Okay, that was a huge adjustment, and making a point. Look at her mouth shifting around. Corey's kind of laughing a little bit, but I wanted you to notice something else. I wanted you to notice what Corey did. Now, when she did her big adjustment, right after that, Corey adjusted. Now, here's a little lesson in human nature and human behavior. One of the, and I've gone over this before, one of the things that happens is when one person moves, it's human nature for us to mirror, to act like another person, think about yawning and all those kind of things. And so what we have here is her doing the movement, and then Corey watching and doing the movement shortly thereafter. Now, in the human nature world, or whatever you want to call it, the first person that moves, look for whoever the second person that moves is, because the second person that moves sees the first person that moves as mentally superior to who they are. Now, I'm only dropping this little tidbit on you because we're going into the 2020 election. There's a whole bunch of them out there running that right now, and so eliminating one or two of them might make it easier to decide who you think might be a leader in the pack. Now, as far as these two go, she shifted. Shortly after that, he shifted. That tells me that he looks at her as a superior to him. So take that for what it's worth.
This final report.
But I will say that no one...
Sir, I'm asking a question. March 24th summary, you wrote that, quote, after reviewing the special counsel's final report, Deputy Attorney General...
All right, well, Kamala gives us a little grin, thinking she's got it in the bag. Corey flops back in his chair to support her, and looking like he's so confident he's got it in the bag, sitting back in his chair like that.
Is not sufficient.
Notice Kamala rocking back in the fourth, trying to make her point. You got Corey's dimpled chin, sucking in, contempt, corners of his mouth turned down. His eyes are wandering around. He's not looking at anything. He's not focused on anything. He's got a bunch of other stuff on his mind. You'll see that throughout all of this. Corey's mind, or eyes wandering all over the place, really not focused. He's looming over her, kind of video bombing her, kind of like the 2016 election, huh?
Which were summarized in the FBI 302 forms, former FBI Director Comey's memos, and the President's public statements. My question is, in reaching your conclusion, did you personally review all of the underlying evidence?
Now understand what she's trying to do here. She's making a point of her statement public disclosure and then trying to nail him.
No, we took and accepted. We accepted
Mr.
the
Rosenstein?
No, we accepted the statements in the report as the factual record. We did not.
Notice the narrowing of the eyes.
We accepted it as accurate and made our.
Booker's contemptuous. Look at his corner of his mouth turn up.
Question or look at the underlying evidence that supports.
Little nods of support from Cory Booker, like anybody needs that kind of stuff. Long blink from him also. Look at those long blink from that long blink from Kamala, raised eyebrows, like I'm better than you. That's what she's saying.
And supports the conclusions in the report, to your knowledge.
Not to my knowledge. We accepted the statements in the report.
Did anyone
the
in your
characterization of the evidence is true.
Did anyone in
She's trying to answer, and it wasn't the answer she wanted, so she's interrupting him before he got done.
True.
Now, notice
Did
where
anyone
her hand is. Her hand is up, finger on the side of her temple, pointing in the air, thumb on her chin. She really does want to know what the answer to this question is. She's looking for an answer to what she just asked. Narrowing of her eyes again, you know, it's like she's trying to get laser vision here. I think this is more of an act than anything else, the eye narrowing.
No.
No. Yet you represented to the American public that the evidence was not, quote, sufficient to support an obstruction of justice offense.
The evidence presented in the report. This is not a mysterious process. In the Department of Justice, we have pros memos and declination memos every day coming up, and we don't go and
look at all the blinks again, and then, you know, she's just blink, 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 and then right there at the end, watch what she does with her mouth. That's so hard. I don't care what you have to
As the
say.
Attorney General of the United States, you run the United States Department of Justice. If in any U.S. attorney's office around the country, the head of that office, when being asked to make a critical decision about, in this case, the person who holds the highest office in the land, and whether or not that person committed a crime, would you accept them recommending a charging decision to you if they had not reviewed the evidence?
Well,
Now, she's asking a question rhetorically and not expecting an answer, but she worded it in such a way that he has no choice but to answer it poorly. Booker again staring off in the distance. She is attacking him. Look how she's leaning forward, elbows on the table. She still feels like she's in control of the situation.
It's a question for Bob Mueller. He's the U.S. attorney. He's the one who presents the report.
But it was you who made the charging decision, sir.
Now look at that pouty face right there. I just don't understand. She understands perfectly well what's going on, but she puts that eyebrows, bring the eyebrows in, squinting the eyes a little bit, like she's really just trying to grasp the concept, and it's just paining her. She's been trained to do this, to make it look foolish. This is what they do. And Cory, again, I didn't know what to say about him. He's just staring off in the distance.
You made the decision not to charge the president.
No, in a pros memo and in a declination memo.
You said it was your baby. What did you mean by that?
It was my baby to decide whether or not to disclose it to the public.
And whose decision was it? Who had the power to make the decision about?
He had the power. You know the answer to the question, and when you ask these questions, you make yourself look foolish.
Whether or not the evidence was sufficient to make a determination of whether there had been an obstruction of justice.
Prosecution memos go up to the supervisor. In this case, it was the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General who decide on the final decision. And that is based on the memo as presented by the U.S. Attorney's Office.
We're shuffling papers now. She didn't even listen to what he had to say. No, now did you see her pause in her answer? Her pause in her answer says that she wasn't listening to what he had to say. What she was doing was waiting for a moment so she could respond back.
Your recusal from the 14 investigations that have been discussed by my colleagues is necessary.
I don't see any basis for it. I already consulted with them, and
you have consulted with them about the 14 other investigations?
About the
Notice how she focuses on the 14.
officials about the appropriateness of you
that
being
kind of
involved or recusing yourself from the 14 other investigations that have been referred out?
On what basis?
Conflict of interest, clear conflict
What's my
of interest.
conflict? What's my conflict of
notice
interest?
what she said there, conflict of interest, and then she got that seed in there, and then she added clear conflict of interest to hope to make it even worse than it appears.
I think the American public has seen quite well that you are biased in this situation and you've not been objective, and that would arguably be the conflict of
Well,
interest.
I haven't been
Yeah, she's said conflict of interest like 4 times in the last 15, 20 seconds. So she's trying to pound that point home to get it to be an acceptable sentence or an acceptable statement. And that's just not fair. He keeps trying to answer his questions. Look, he's not even looking at her now trying to answer the question, just trying to look around the room, trying to find somebody that will listen to his answer because she's not listening to anything. Her eyes are closed.
only decision maker here. Now, let's take the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, who was approved by this Senate 94-6 with specific discussion on the floor that he would be responsible for supervising the Russian investigation.
I'm glad you brought up that.
Okay?
That's a
And
great
he has
topic.
30 years experience, and we had a number of senior prosecutors in the department involved in this process, both career and non-career.
Yes, I've read
all
the
agreed on
process,
the
sir.
disposition.
I have another question. And I'm glad you brought that subject up because I have a question about that. Earlier,
That's funny because as soon as he said Rosenstein, she brushed back her hair. She got a little nervous, started shifting her chair, started moving around the papers, acting like she was trying to find something. Her papers ended up in the same stack, so she knew exactly what question she was going to ask. And she stomped on Barr once again, showing how rude she truly is.
and I'm glad you brought that subject up because I have a question about that. Earlier today, in response to Senator Graham, you said, quote,
Look at Booker.
with Rosenstein constantly, unquote, with respect to the special counsel's investigation and report. But Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein is also a key witness in the firing of FBI Director Comey. Did you consult
Well, that's
I'm not finished.
Yeah.
Did you consult with DOJ ethics officials before you enlisted Rod Rosenstein to participate in a charging decision for an investigation, the subject of which he is also a witness?
my understanding was that he had been cleared already to participate in it by the.
So you had consulted with them and they cleared it?
No, I think they cleared it with.
This is when it starts going downhill for Kamala.
You don't know whether he's been cleared of a conflict?
Sounds like it's going downhill for Barr, but just a second here.
So you're saying that it did not need to be reviewed by the career ethics officials in your office?
I believe
to
it- I
determine
believe
if
it
was
was-
appropriate?
Well, I believe it was reviewed, and I
And what
would
was the
also
finding?
point out this seems to be a bit of a flip-flop because when the president
Here, squint her eyes. She's upset she's not getting the answers that she wants.
supporters
Sir,
were
the flip-flop,
challenging
I think, in this
Rosenstein.
case is that you're not answering the question directly.
What?
Did the ethics officials in your office, in the Department of Justice, review the appropriateness of Rod Rosenstein being a part of making a charging decision on an investigation which he is also a witness in?
Yeah, so as I said, my understanding was he had been cleared, and he had been cleared before I arrived.
In making a decision on the Mueller report?
Yes.
He answered the question, and it wasn't what she expected.
And the findings of whether or not the case would be charged on obstruction of justice? He had been cleared on that?
He was the acting attorney general on
So she's asking again. Corey plops back in his chair. Oh, no.
the Mueller investigation.
Had he been cleared,
She doesn't know how to ask it.
your side, a
I
decision
am informed that before I arrived, he had been cleared by the ethics officials.
of what?
Okay, now Corey's looking a little concerned. That backfired on them. That was their gem.
Serving as acting attorney general on the Mueller case.
How about making a charging decision on obstruction of justice?
That is
the
what the
underlying
acting-
offenses which include him as a witness.
Watch this. He's frustrated because he doesn't know how to answer the same damn question again.
You know, he
Did you see? He's just frustrated. Look at the hands up, down. He's just frustrated.
that's what the acting
You see?
attorney general's job is.
To be a witness and to make the decision about being a prosecutor?
Well,
And look how quick he turns it off. That means it was a patronizing, you're an idiot, that's that kind of laugh. Anyway, that's it, folks. I'll be doing some more here shortly. I have one coming up, just a photo of the Dalai Lama with Obama. I want to show some posture and some power posing, and I'll be putting that up shortly. if you want to learn how to do this, like I said, click one of the links below, like, follow, subscribe, do whatever it is that you do, whatever platform you're on. And I hope you all have a great day. Remember, be brave, be courageous, and be a warrior.